Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Ever So Clever Conversations with Amy and Heather, episode 30.
Yeah, 30 already. Yes, welcome. And we are going to talk about anger today. And we're having conversations. We were doing them weekly. We've decided maybe monthly would be enough for us to bring the information to you and have these continued conversations. And we're really doing it because we know it's turbulent times out there. Especially we're living in Minnesota. There's a lot going on here energetically and with everything that's been happening in our state. And we know what it's like, and we want to give you an insight to our conversations and know that you can thrive and flourish as an empath or highly sensitive person or an intuitive.
Yeah. And Heather and I claim to be experienced empaths, intuitive, highly sensitives, but in no way are we experts. Although, I think we have a lot of information behind both of us to help inform us about some things that maybe do, edge into that expert realm. But we are here to talk today about anger, and that anger really is okay for the empath, and it's highly productive, right? Anger is a productive thing. It sometimes is hard, probably because we don't like conflict. That's probably what it really has to do with, more than the anger itself.
True. And when I was thinking about anger, I'm going to kind of look down at our page. So if there are any comments, feel free to make comments as you go, or as you're watching us now or later. I was thinking about anger. And two, it's sometimes you have to figure out where that's coming from. Is it yours, or are you feeling it from somebody else, or is there a collective, happening in that? Is that anger coming from there? So really, where is that anger coming from? Is there a
Right.
situation that happened in your personal life that's causing the anger? So I was like, that's kind of the first piece. It's like understanding where it's coming from. Firstly.
I agree. I think I can speak to that. So I'm going to dive in.
Yeah.
I didn't know what authentic anger is, which is what Heather, I think, is really talking about, until mid-August of 2014. And I had children a long time prior to that. And so when I was hot or I was hungry, but mostly like if I was getting my coat on and then getting their coats on when they were little, it was pretty notorious that I would get angry at them in the back hall and say, you have to, because I was too warm, and that's a trigger for me and makes me angry. So as a result, I didn't understand what was going on, except for I did learn, how about I put my coat on last and teach them to stand right there for a second, or stand like right at the door of the garage so they stay cool enough. And that worked. So I always found ways to manage around it. But when it came time, my kids had done something really naughty. And I looked at them and I said, I am irate. But I said it just like that. I really didn't have an emotion in me, but I really was angry at them. And they, because of their training with me as a parent, they were like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? Because there'd be consequences. But I felt so powerful. I felt like, I get it now. It's this, they actually did something wrong. It seems like such an easy concept to understand, that somebody does something wrong, you call it out and you say, I don't like this, or this isn't working for me, or there's a consequence to this,
Mm-hmm.
and then move forward. And that inauthentic anger, I had so much of that as a child, coming from all over the place, that I couldn't track on even what the heck that meant, which is really kind of embarrassing to admit here. But that's what it was. I had no clue. And I remember getting really angry at my kids. I'd bottle it up about 4 times in their childhood, until I was like, that's it. Something has to really change. But that's what I had all my childhood, is this burst of anger. And you never knew when it was coming. So it left you in kind of that post-traumatic stress of, am I safe? Am I loved? Which is really hard. And of course, for the empath, we're more sensitive. So that makes it even harder.
And I'm similar with that, being raised by a mom that would just show anger and you didn't know when it would come,
Mhm.
or when you felt you could trigger that. So it's that eggshell feeling like, ooh, I could do it. I remember I was dating my husband and I was living at home with my parents at the time to save money. He wasn't my husband yet, but we were dating, and I had told my mom, like, I'm not going to be home for dinner. And she got so angry at me. that she threw like a hot baked potato on the floor and it hit me. I mean, it was horrible, but I was like, that's the kind of childhood. And I was an adult at that time. She was so upset that she made dinner, um, that she took it out on me, that she, so I think a lot of empaths and highly sensitive people, we see anger, we want to avoid it because it is such maybe a negative sensation to us. But anger often is showing us something else as well, right? There could be fear behind it. I had used anger at a point with my daughter when she was dealing with mental illness, anger at the situation and some of her care, and it actually turned into a positive, right? It propelled me to make changes, and it was more of um, a push and that sensation of I'm going to figure this out, and that feeling. So anger can be used in so many different ways, and I think trying to avoid it just makes it worse. And we hold it in, right, in our bodies, and
Mhm.
that's going to make us sick.
Right. I mean, I think several things. I feel like we can define anger, or no, I'm going to say it for me. I define anger as the liver energy, it's unfair, but the core of it is screaming for love. And I do think the thing that I'll say in reflection to your mom is for women, this can be tricky. And I think we've been shown this as have like expectations
Mhm.
that she expected Heather to be there. She expected, and she may have had a lot of situations that weren't, what's the word I had it before, but people let her down.
Yes.
And so then she's looking to Heather to hold this story up, and that's totally inappropriate. It's not healthy for Heather, and it's not healthy for her mom. And I mean, I have a similar situation in high school. My mom, I was in cross country running, and we had our regions meet, and I had told her I'm going to be late on this day because I have to get back to school and I'll be late and then walk home. And they never made an allowance or a space to try and pick me up or help me out that way either, which is kind of, I thought, kind of tricky. And then I got home and she yelled at me and she didn't talk to me for several days. I mean, that's how, so it's like, that is total shutout. And, and that's awful because there's no way to remedy or figure something out if somebody absolutely will not communicate with you because you're wrong. Even though here's a kid doing the right things and being a good kid, and I felt horrible for it. I mean, it makes like I kind of feel teary saying it
Yeah.
because how many kids are doing the right things and they get caught in situations where the adult judges instead of listens. And my daughter assures me that the millennials are raising their kids by listening to them. Like, I hope so, because that was lost in our era, and we don't want you to feel confused about any of these things, especially with kids, or your partner or relationships, or feel angry at somebody and not be able to convey this isn't right.
Mhm.
um,
Well, and in my experience with my daughter who had anxiety, was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder, part of it is because of her anger that we seeked out help with our doctor. She would be so aggressive and angry. Um, and I was like, what is happening? But now I understand, as a highly sensitive person or an empath, she was trying to explain things, or things that she expected to happen weren't happening, and she didn't have the voice or the experience to speak it. So her way of getting our attention was in anger. So if you do see that in your child, that's something they go to. Like, it was aggressive behavior, like throwing and yelling and kicking, and but that was her way of being like, attention, like, listen to me.
you aren't getting
uh,
it right.
yeah, yeah, you're not getting it, you're not getting me, I'm trying to tell you something, and I wasn't creating that space for her to be heard. So I think our children probably have learned from that experiences, and or from maybe hearing our stories, and will make that shift.
For sure. Yeah, I know we had a lot of frustration with one of our kids for they're very intelligent, but they were not able to apply themselves to school in a certain way. And then we realized they have this part of their brain that doesn't work very well. But why I'm bringing it up is for years we would say, well, I would say, you're so smart. What is the deal? And what it brought on was intense anger from the child and frustration for me.
Yeah.
And my frustration just imbued this anger instead of saying, it'll be figured out when it's time.
Yeah.
And, we have to let go. It was my expectation that this kid would perform at a certain level because they're capable. And that was silly. It's not, it doesn't work that way. They're going to perform the way they're going to perform as they perform. And the more we let them do that and find their way through, they will eventually clean. Like that kid has now figured it out and connected to something that they're like, I know, right? And that's what we want, is that knowing of, I know this is where I'm headed. But it took a lot of realizing I need to go back and deal with my own frustration and then let the kid be, because I was totally making her angry,
Right.
which is
Right.
really unfair. Yeah.
Well, and then when she's angry, I'm sure for me, I know when my daughter was angry, I got angry. And it was like this back and forth. Like it was not serving anybody.
Right.
Um, until you had awareness of what. So if you're feeling that anger, have awareness and try to figure out, like Amy says, be curious.
Mhm.
And I love that, to figure out what is causing that.
When she'd get to a point of erupting, I would back off. So that was kind of my, okay, you don't know, and it's clear she doesn't know, and that's okay. So
Mhm.
I would get to that point, but I do think in friendships, calling out, this doesn't work for me, or in some friendships, that's a necessary piece with people I know, is to call them out right away. And others, it doesn't matter, because it will find its own way. So I think also, because if you fall into this category of empathic, intuitive, and sensitive, or some of them, you already naturally are connected to that intuition of when to let things not be dealt with, because it'll be okay. It'll come out in the wash. Like maybe they're just having a bad day, that friend of mine, or, but there are
Right.
other people where it's like they have such strong personalities that it must be called out. That doesn't work for me, or I don't like to be spoken to, or I don't like that, nickname. Some people call me AIM, and I don't know why, but I don't really like that. I mean, Heather, if you did, I don't think I care. But there's
I was like, I never even thought of that though.
no, but and now that I say it, probably people will start saying that to me. But there's kind of this, some people that did it when I was a child, and I think that's in my past, or something. So um yeah, we have those pieces where we have to call them out so that we don't let things build up. And that's where anger becomes more real, is we had expectations ourselves, we had responsibility, and we carried a story, and that's not true. So letting that go and saying, I don't really know, which is a curious position of, yeah, I don't really know what to do here. And that other person saying, well, what do you mean? Well, they don't have an answer, so they might try and fill in an answer, but just letting them figure their own way out, and not feeling like you have to solve it. I mean, I think the best anger situations are, I'm feeling this, I don't like this is what I want instead, and this is how I want it to resolve. Like if we can speak from there, it comes cleanly, and then we know what the position is for the other person, and then we can say, I can't be that, I can be this, and start to negotiate or find a way. When I say negotiate, though, I really am cautioning, if it's parenting, we don't really want to negotiate with kids, or barter, or bargain, because that's a huge slippery slope that a lot of parents use as a way to trick their kids into something. And we want that stuff to be clean, because when they're adults and in a love relationship, there's not going to be bartering. And so we're trying to teach our children to be adults, not children. So
Good one. That is a good one.
mhm.
Yes, we're raising adults, as one of my friends has said. Is that you, or I know one of my friends has said that.
One of my friends said it when she had a
Oh,
kid about further me. So it's from her. April Martin is her name. Thanks, April. But I think that's very, like, that's true. We're raising adults.
that's true. Well, and what I know, my friend Barb would say, we're raising the future as well. So we want them to be stable and be able to have good relationships and speak their mind, because they're our future. Um, so I think really that is the point I hear of what a part of what you're saying too, is like acknowledging it, letting people know. I have times where I'm like, I can't tell if my husband's angry at me. The way he's reacting seems like it. So it's like, hey, are you angry? Is something happened? Did I do something, or what are you feeling? And speaking through it. And then it's usually cleared, instead of going through your day and being like, what did I do? And making up your own story. That
Mhm.
happened just yesterday morning. I came down to like get coffee and start my day. And he was just looked at me like really angry. And I was like, what did I do? I just woke up. I don't know, what's happening. And I gave him a few minutes and I'm like, did I upset you? Was there something I did? And he's like, oh no, he was having a bad day and something had already happened. Um, but normally there's times I go through the whole day being like, oh gosh, he's mad at me. And then I make scenarios of why he could be.
Mhm.
And so I think if we can hit some of this head on, it's really important to do that. And I ask my kids, I mean, even if they seem angry or upset, what's going on? Let's talk through it. I think the way we were raised was just don't talk about it, hold it in.
Not only that, but the parent is always right.
Yes.
And it's a
Yes.
hierarchy. And that's what I think was the biggest struggle for people who are especially the highly sensitive
Yes.
person.
Oh
So
gosh.
yeah, I mean, I look back and I think there were so many times I knew better than my parents, and I think that's horrific that they were shoving it down my throat that I had to behave and do a certain way, and I knew that that wasn't actually the right thing, but they wanted to be right.
Mhm.
And I'm like, there's something really warped about that um,
Yeah.
desire to be right.
And I think for me now with my son, I have that open space for him where if he calls me out, it's okay. I don't get mad at him. Like he'll be like, "Mom, you're wrong," or "Mom, that doesn't make sense." And then I let him explain and I'm like, "You know what? Thank you. You're right." Or, "Mom, you embarrassed me. Please don't do that again." Like I did that yesterday. I waved to one of his friends from the car and he was like, "Mom, why did you do, and I'm like, I'm sorry. And we had a conversation about it and why please don't do that again and why I shouldn't. And, you know,
Yes.
not just like, oh, well, you're a teenager, we had to like, why does that bother you? Okay, I won't do that. Simple things that we can talk about and not turn them into big issues later on. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
that's a silly example, but
No, it's not. It's a real example. I think it's important.
yeah. And I think anger is not good or bad, right? I like to say emotions aren't either negative or bad or good. I mean, they're just what you're feeling. I mean, there are good like happiness, but a lot of times it's bringing up something that you need to understand or maybe heal. It's a pattern that keeps coming up and just not avoiding it. And it can be hard, but that's the best way to heal some of these things too that are making you angry.
I agree. I think they're informants, so
Yes.
how do we let it inform us and not get us to believe that the emotion, and I'm an emotional person, so I mean, not that I cry all the time or anything, but I can feel those very deeply, and I think I've spent a lot of my life trying to navigate how do I not feel so deeply. And a while ago, I mean, this is just kind of an aside, but I for years I've said I want to just not be this person that's so sensitive, and I want to be like everybody's person, just like able to eat McDonald's and have success with that. Like I don't have to eat this high-end animal diet. and and then I something happened which I can't remember, and I thought, no, I want to be me. I want to be how I am, and I think that that's important that we own that and this
Mhm.
whole emotional experience. If you're in this category of person, you feel more deeply, you just do, and there's a reason for it, and it's good, it's not a bad thing, but then you have to be aware your feelings are could be more intense. And I will point out, Heather is a floral essence expert, so if you struggle with emotions, I remember many years ago a colleague of mine, she does Mayan abdominal massage, but she said, Amy, I'm going to give you a floral essence. And I said, okay, I don't know. I mean, I was willing to try anything, right? And it was life changing because it just made those intense feelings just more mild and gently so. So check out Heather's website and look at that because it can really make a profound difference. Like if you run kind of more hot anxious, or you run, it just takes that edge off and makes you feel without drugs. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
literally the
Yeah.
essence of flowers, which is really powerful. Who knew?
Well, and might have to do something on that. Yeah, flower essences are amazing. They're vibrational medicines, so they're working on that vibrational space or where you are to elevate you up or support you. Even if you're very high vibrational, just if you need a shift, it's really amazing and had helped my daughter when she was coming off of prescription medication. to help her feel more stable and less anxious. So for sure, reach out to me if you have questions on that. It's one of my favorite tools to use, especially for sensitive people, because we're already so tuned into energy, and that's what it is. So thanks for that, Amy.
Of course. No, I think that's an important with emotions, a nice one for people like us.
Yes. And very subtle, no side effects. You can take it with medication. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing. And it is, I mean, that's the nice thing is, I know people that medicate for that just periodically. And I think that's just such a nice, you can use it all the time if you want. And that's awesome too.
Right. Yeah.
Sweet.
All right.
Well,
Anything else?
I can't think of anything. I don't know. Anger. Rawr. That was just for fun.
So we're going to do these conversations, like I said, monthly. So we'll be doing them on the first Tuesday of each month with different themes and topics. And we normally do them at noon Central Time. So watch for more information on the one coming in April. I don't think we have a topic out that we've just
I don't know
discussed
if
yet.
we
So
do. I haven't looked at it.
yeah, so we will make sure that you're aware, and we would love to have you join us live as we do this or watch it as a replay when you have time. So thank you for joining us.
Thanks, everyone. And check out the links that we have here for the
Yeah.
upcoming events that Heather and I are a part of. We appreciate to have you there if it interests you and feels right.
Yes. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.